Once again, we are joined by Will Ward, senior map designer here at Relic, to talk about the new maps coming in Coral Viper. How you doing, Will?
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
Will, we've got three brand new maps coming in this update. Do you want to talk about which ones we're bringing over and the work that we did to select these maps and how we ended up bringing them in? Because I believe we have three more maps from the community.
That's right. Yeah, three community maps in one big drop. Do you want to rattle through them one by one?
Sure, you go ahead.
Yeah. So to begin with, we are bringing in Eindhoven, which is a Ko2 favorite 2v2 map.
Mhm.
We also have a brand new contender. We have Gothic Line, which is a 3v3. And then we have Oasis Depot, which is a 4v4.
All right. So first up, Operation Eindhoven. So all of these maps are going to be coming to all modes, and as we mentioned, these are community maps. So Will, can you maybe talk a little bit about the history of Operation Eindhoven and the work that we did with Spanky to bring this into Company of Heroes 3?
Yes. So this is a map that I've wanted to bring in from the very beginning. For those who aren't aware of what is now known as Operation Eindhoven, but was originally just Eindhoven, it is a Ko2 map created by Spanky and has been sat at the very top of the 2v2 auto match maps for a long time. I think it is the most played 2v2 for the last 3 years at least. So this was a map that I wanted to bring over straight away. It's a great design. It's very, very familiar. It isn't overly complex, which is great. So beginners can jump into it straight away. But it's got enough twists and turns to it that it's formidable even in the highest of gameplay. So it really stands the test of time very well. But this was a case where, although we could have technically built this ourselves, because we wanted to bring it in, I sort of knew that Spanky was still active.
Mhm.
I was like, I'm just going to let this one sit because I'm hoping that Spanky will bring it back to the fore. And of course he did. And it's been lovely to work with him. I've known him for a long time. We haven't worked together directly. We've kind of worked alongside each other
Mhm.
when we were both community mappers. So yeah, I'm glad to see he was still active and eager to bring this back.
Awesome. So I've got some words here right from Spanky themselves. Spanky says, quote, Operation Eindhoven has been a challenging first project because of the new world builder tool that we got, but also a fun learning experience overall. I wanted Up Eindhoven to be as true to the original as it could be, and with all the new assets to play around with. It has been a pleasure to recreate this iconic 2v2 map from Code 2. Relic took note of this effort and contacted me, which led me to working with Will, aka Monolithic Bacon, to bring Up Eindhoven to Code 3 Auto Match. And I have to say, we as a community are very fortunate to have him as our lead map designer. What a legend.
How sweet. How very sweet.
Cool. So what can players expect with this new version of Eindhoven?
I mean, honestly, it's so familiar. I wouldn't expect anything dramatically different, which is no bad thing at all. It plays so well, so familiarly that players will hopefully be able to just jump back into the play styles that they were used to. The main differences are going to be visual, in that we've got all of our new assets. It's got new lighting, but honestly, it is just a solid all-round map, and yeah, it'll sink straight back into its position right at the very top of the 2v2s in no time. I'm sure of it.
Okay, so let's maybe head over to our next map here.
Let's do it. Ahaha. Right. So we have Gothic Line. This map has been known by a couple of names. I believe it was also Green Line. But Gothic Line is 3v3 made by Toby,
Mhm.
who is also another very long time mapper. I've known and worked alongside Toby for a very long time. And a lot of his maps also sit in the auto match pool in Co2. So as soon as I saw that he was also active again, I reached out. This was, I believe, one of his entrants for the 4v4 map making competition way back. And we thought, right, there's plenty of opportunity to work with this. It needed some refinements and improvements. So Toby and I worked on things like adding more heavy cover to places that needed it, refining some areas like the top of the hill, and where we can, making it a little bit more auto match appropriate. So this map features a an emplacement wall across the center of the map that's been breached.
Hmm.
So working on those breaches in the wall to make sure that the map opens up more as the game continues. What we want, for example, is for the major lanes to become passable as light vehicles come into the field, and then more open and passable when medium tanks enter the field, and then even more so when heavy tanks.
Okay. So
Um,
Toby says about Gothic Line, quote, Gothic Line started as a choke point map featuring a wall of fortifications on a hill, with the focus being on destroying the walls to open up avenues of attack. Feedback led to me making more paths up the hill and through the walls. And then Will gave me some great advice, including how to improve the cover and help people approach the center line.
that is it. Yeah, and this is Toby's style all over. It's like this is just a lovely visual map. He's always had a good eye for detail. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how people play on it. Because it will be new to the automatch pool.
Yeah.
Um,
So you mentioned that this was entered into, I think, Gray Shot's map making
it was.
competition. So I think those were 4v4. So it's, did you do work with Toby to make this a 3v3? And
Well,
what did that look like?
yeah, funnily enough, this is a conversation I had with the gameplay designers yesterday. Um, it 3v3 is such an awkward map size. Because if you look at, say, the opposite sides of it, you look at 2v2 and 4v4, they are both very specific map sizes. 2v2 is simply too big for 1v1. It's not double the size, but it's about 50% bigger. And 4v4 is colossal. And if you're making a 3v3 map on purpose, chances are you're going to either end up with an oversized 2v2 or an undersized 4v4.
Hmm.
And it isn't too hard to convert a 3v3 into a 4v4 just because it's slightly too big.
Right.
Whereas this map was designed to be a 4v4, and honestly, the more that we played it, and it was Toby's decision in the end, and I believe it was the right one, it was just simply too small to be a 4v4.
Okay.
So most 3v3s that are designed as 3v3s don't end up as 3v3s because they're just an awkward size. 4v4s that are too small to be 4v4s end up as 3v3s. It's such an awkward map size.
Hmm. Okay, cool. Any sort of final thoughts or expectations for Gothic Line that, what are players going to get into here?
I mean, as always, I'm just looking forward to see what people think of it and how they play on it. This is a very different map to what we've made before. It is very much a heavy 3-laned map, but it's bisected with cliffs on either side. So you've got the open hilltop, and then you've got the 2 lanes down the side. So it'll be very different in how it plays to a lot of our maps. So which is good, which is great to keep the map pool fresh.
Okay, very cool. So let's maybe take a look at our last entrant, our 4v4.
Yeah. Okay. So last but not least is Oasis Depot, which was the winner of Grey Shot's 4v4 competition. So the designer of this map, Spring Air, and I have been in contact for quite a while now. This is a map that when we looked at it, it was certainly worthy of the title of winning the 4v4 competition, but it had some features to it that I wasn't comfortable putting into the automatic pool. And Springer agreed with me when we went through a number of features that probably just wouldn't stand the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
We've mentioned before that when we're bringing in community maps, we want them to stay there. We don't want to bring in community maps that need to be replaced or immediately running into bugs or issues.
Right.
So we sat down with this map for a number of months. Springer's a very busy guy, so bless him. He put a lot of work in his spare time to try and make some changes. So for people who played this during Grey Shot's competition and played the workshop version, you'll notice that there are some pretty significant differences. Notably, the central island of this map is no longer fully enclosed.
Mm-hmm.
You can access that central island from various routes. So if I think we're driving into it now.
Yep.
Yeah, so there are lots of vehicle paths instead of infantry-only paths. The bridges are no longer the only way onto this island. So the cliffs have been pulled away, and there's plenty of access ramps up. And all the water in this area is now pathable.
Mm-hmm.
There are only a very few small sections of water that can't be accessed, deeper water. Things like this jungle here, this very overgrown area, the trees have been clustered rather than scattered.
Mm-hmm.
So you have better pathfinding for light vehicles and team weapons like AT guns, which struggle in those sorts of environments.
Right.
and just generally refining loads of things across the board. We've refined cover. We've adjusted some of the territory. The urban areas in particular have seen a lot of love. We've clustered some buildings together rather than having gaps, lengthened wall sections. Lots of work has gone into this map. I'm very pleased with how it's come out. I think it's going to be a very, very solid entrant into our 4v4 pool.
Yeah. So Springer told us, quote, having had the opportunity to work with Will and Relic, this has been an amazing experience. Will is an incredible designer, and I've learned so much from our discussions. This type of collaboration with the community is truly commendable, and I hope more people will have the opportunity to participate in it. So
So
yeah,
flattered.
yeah, I know. It's just all these people have nice things to say about you. Yeah, Will, I think we're pretty excited to bring these three new maps to all modes for our players. Any final thoughts on these maps before we close out?
Nothing that I haven't already said. Honestly, I can't wait to see what people think of them. I'll be watching live streams the day they come out, just to get that fresh feedback as it comes through. Yeah, it's been a pleasure working with all these folks, and I look forward to working with them again in the future.
Okay, so that's going to do it, Will. Thanks so much for joining us and for obviously working with Spanky, Toby, and Springer to bring these maps to Company of Heroes 3. And we will catch you next time. So let's move on to the next segment.